Well, welcome. Tonight is Friday Night with Anthony White. I am Anthony White, the Orange Tie Guy. And I wanted to bring up something. I am changing a few different little formats to try and make sure that everything's effective, works. Why not work out the kinks and see if it's something worth watching, right? So, I've got a couple of things that were kind of interest to me because of a friend who inquired via text with me once upon a time. And I want to make sure that I bring up this message because it was an interesting one that came across my perspective, where it was kind of baffling to me. I think I teach this over and over and over and over and over again. And actually, I take it back. It's not over text messages, it's actually via Messenger. That's what it was. So, what a great place to be on Facebook and then also be able to go to Messenger. So, for me, one of the big questions that she was running into, or issues that she was running into, is the fact that she was asking guys on dates, but they were non-responsive. And ultimately, she kind of approached me and said, "Hey, I'm having issues here. There's problems kind of coming my way." And without disclosing any personal information, because as a coach and a friend, I don't do that. But ultimately, she had basically asked me, let's see here. Her question was, is it okay for girls to text guys when asking them on a date? And I asked that question of you. I'm curious about your comments, your questions, or your thoughts. But ultimately, my response to her was, are you good with a guy texting you to ask you out? Because, it goes both ways, right? Trying to figure out exactly, okay, what's best in these scenarios, Is it okay that I ask a guy on a date? Yeah, absolutely. If you are okay with them asking you on a date. Now, does everybody like to be asked on a date via text? Not necessarily. But is that a bad thing? Not at all. But, you have those people that are like, I'm only going to eat the brand name, items. Or, I'm only going to get the highest of the high. So, yeah, I don't know if I would call it snobbish, but there are those people that have their, I don't even want to call it standards, but their expectations. And in this scenario, I was like, you know what? Hey, to each their own. If they want to have that expectation, great. But our question, again, is it okay for girls to text guys when asking them on a date? So I kind of raised that question to you guys. I'm curious what your comments are and your thoughts are, if you're even watching. Probably not. But I don't know. Maybe you'll comment after Friday Night with Anthony White. It is a little later than my typical time frame. But, when you're watching and working on a few other things, it's kind of difficult to break away. I need to make sure that this is a set time all the time. But I also said it's good. It's a good way to determine what it might be like, because reading something and having time to think about it is different than asking in person or on the phone, right? Somebody calls me up and says, "Hey, I want to take you on a date." Okay. I wasn't kind of expecting that. In my opinion, that's probably not the greatest thing to do. I would ask in person. Personally, that's my recommendation. Now, granted, with COVID, it's kind of a different kind of situation when we're under quarantine or we don't see as many people as we used to, where we could meet new people in real life and say, "Hey, you know what? Can I, take you out to eat? Or, can I do this or that or whatever," right? So here's what I would say. First and foremost, the best way that I always interact and when I ask a girl on a date is I say, "Hey, Brenda, I'd love to take you on a date this Saturday. Are you available?" It's asking, right? What I find very interesting, and it actually is, I guess the word bothersome, is when people are like, they freeze almost because they're trying to think, okay, Anthony's a nice guy, but I don't like him like that. And I don't want to go on a date with him, but I don't want to hurt his feelings or, this or that or whatever. Stop thinking that, people. Seriously, stop it. Like, these, I guess for lack of a better word, stupid people that are out there that get offended when somebody says, no, thanks, but no thanks. Like, get over it. Stop people pleasing. Now, you can be a jerk, like, ew, why would I go out with you? Yeah, that's messed up. But at the same time, you can still, respond, no, I'm good, but thanks for asking. Simple, direct, to the point, right? If the other person's like fumbling, get over it. They said no, back off, right? I asked out Megan on a date, but it was actually via us, I think, FaceTiming, something like that. She said, you know what, I'm not interested in going on a date with you. And I said, okay, cool. And I was like, at that point, there's not really much, okay, so what else is going on in your life? Yeah, you don't really carry on the conversation, right? But when she said, yeah, no, I'll pass, I was like, okay, cool. Well, I'll see you later, or see you when I see you. Not an issue, right? I didn't hold it against them. But when you're thinking about texting someone and going that route, it is completely a different realm. And in my opinion, I would actually encourage you to go this slightly different route, okay? So this is it. I'm asking out these girls, right? I'm going to ask out, I don't know, let's start with A's, right? Amber, Allison, Alice, Aubrey, Audrey, let's see, I can't think of any other A's at the moment. But anyway, so I'm thinking about going on dates with these girls, right? Because again, establishing and you understanding celestial dating, I hope. Because if you don't, you need to go to the page, Celestial Dating, and read up on it or watch those videos in details. But it's the idea of a date is just to get to know someone better, right? Okay, so I want to get to know them better, right? So I ask them on dates. Let's say it's via text, right? Well, I'm going to text them all. Why in the world would I text someone that is a one-way communication like an email or a letter in the mail and wait for them to respond back to you? If you're going to reach out to somebody and ask them and it takes a while for them to respond, then okay, so be it. So this is a different approach. This is completely different than other people think because a lot of people are all about, well, you should only be focusing on one person at a time. Yeah, that's called courtship, people. That's called marriage. That's called engagement. That's called commitment, right? Well, a date is a commitment for one night only. Then you're gone. That's it. So the concept is this. Like spam, right? It's like, hey, you know what? I'd love to take you on a date this Friday, 7 p.m. I'm asking a couple of people. So if you can go and want to go, message me quick. Because if others message me, then I'll go out with them. Like, you could do that. Now, is it going to be the greatest approach? Not necessarily. But at the same time, that's still an option. Well, when I was messaging this friend, I said, but you got to determine whether it's a good or a bad thing. Meaning, again, messaging somebody via text. And she responded back to me and said, I'd be okay with that. Okay, so she's okay with being asked out on a text? Great. Then you shouldn't have any issues asking guys out on a text. And then she said, I think I will start calling people to ask them out. I would encourage that greatly. She's like, texting just isn't working for me. I said, yeah, texting is a less effective way to ask others out, which I would agree. She's like, you're right. How many have you asked out via text that hasn't worked out? I was like, 3 so far. I mean, when it comes down to it, it's probably been like hundreds. I honestly can't even remember. It's been maybe this last year via text that I've asked out girls via text. And so... no, I'm sorry. I asked her that. Wow, I need to read who's writing what. So I said, how many have you asked out via text that hasn't worked out? She said 3 so far. So only 1 responded. I said, okay, in the space of what time, right? She said 3 weeks. I only ask 1 guy out a week. And at that point I was like, why? Because again, this notion, this idea, this concept is, okay, well, I need to ask these people out. I want to ask these people out. I want to go on a date with them. Well, you should want to go on a date with more than 1 person. right? I mean, if you only have one person that you want to go out with, and if they keep saying no, get a clue. I learned that in my like young years, like 20s, early 20s. So, yeah. And I said, have you thought about asking 3 guys out, then letting them know whomever responds first gets the date? She's like, I can only take so much rejection in 1 week. Now, here's why I wanted to bring this up. And I messaged her and I said, is it rejection? And she said, yes, if they don't respond. So I gave her a little perspective, right? I'm the orange tie guy. I give people perspective. That's what I do. I said, seems to me that it's a basic invitation to do something, not a rejection. What if their dad just died? Or they have their phone off due to being somewhere without service? And she was like, oh, I didn't think about that. I said, or what if they are doing something and don't get the message for any reason? Yeah, typically we are centered on our own perspective rather than what it really is. So it's good to approach the situation in a neutral mentality, not a me, them one. So honestly, I would just start asking guys out, and if they don't respond, so what? But when you're asking 10 guys out, just let each one know that you're asking others, and if they respond first, then they get the date. If you could have a conversation, I basically said, hey, if we want to have a conversation, we could address this. In fact, I'd love to do that with her, to be able to talk on this Friday night with Anthony White. And I said, it's always best to have a bigger picture than a laser beam mentality when it comes to this realm of relationships like dating and asking. So I wanted to offer that perspective to you guys. Simple, straight, to the point. It's just an interesting understanding when you recognize that they're just as human as you. And when we're expecting immediate response, that's a problem. That's like a big, big problem. So I would approach every kind of conversation the way it actually is. Meaning, are you giving them a one-sided response or inquiry? Is it something where it's like, again, text messages? If it's Messenger, right, on Facebook, not everybody checks it all the time or is on there all the time. I'm logged in a lot of times, but I'm not on it. Like I'm at another computer or I'm somewhere else or that window's down and I have it muted because I don't want to be messaged all the time on Messenger. Don't get me wrong. I like to get back to my messengers and respond and, all of that. But nonetheless, I'm not on it 24/7. That's not my life, But it's interesting to gain that perspective, to understand, simply put, that when you're sending it, you send it, it's gone, out of your hands. So if they respond, awesome. If they don't, awesome. It shouldn't be, keyword, shouldn't be any skin off your back. And rejection, that's your perception. Like I get told no all the time, shot down all the time. That's not rejection to me. It's opposition. It's something that I'm not comfortable with or like, but it's feedback. It's input. It's how I grow and improve as a person. It's how I determine for myself, how do I get stronger? I don't necessarily have to callous myself against people, but no. Maybe I need to phrase things a little differently. Maybe I need to see things a little different. Maybe I need to ask differently. I'm in process of building an online, it's really a funnel for basically this, relationships, dating. And I'm going through this and it's horrible. I am terrible at this. I'm the guy that stands up and gives the lectures. I'm the guy that's speaking on stage. I'm the guy that's, facilitating the conversation. I'm the guy in front of the camera, right? And I'm having to learn all of this technological stuff and how to do this. and it's all new for me. But I could have a total epic fail and still learn something instead of saying, you know what, this was terrible and I should never do this again. Like if I never want to, sure. But guess what? This is how we improve. This is how we grow. This is how we learn, is by having these epic fails, having these total drop the ball, stumbling, hit your face on the concrete because you fell off kind of experience. And it's like, okay, don't do that again. Or let's make some adjustments here so that that doesn't happen again. So for me, I would say simple, straight to the point, you got to do it. What you should do is really the things that are uncomfortable, the things that you don't like, changing that perspective. Rejection doesn't exist. Like, you don't get admitted to something. Were you rejected? No, you just weren't admitted. Slight change in thought, right? Does that mean you should stop? No, it doesn't. And that's the key, I think, when it comes to relationships and dating, especially asking on dates. Shift your mentality. Change it. Say, you know what? Yeah, okay, that one didn't work out so well, so let's move on. I have a friend who was, and I'll end on this, he was asking a bunch of girls on dates. He had just gotten off a mission for 2 years, and he was just asking a bunch of girls on dates. I had one girl who thought she was pretty hot stuff, and she actually came up to me and she's like, can you believe so-and-so, asked me on a date? I'm like, yeah. She's like, yeah, well, good luck there. And it was interesting because he got a date with another girl, because when she said no, and I think others might have said no, I don't know, but he moved on. Okay, that's a no. Next. Hey, you want to go out this Friday? And I think he was married, and he still is happily married. And this is 15, almost 20 years ago. And he just kept asking girls on dates. He didn't let that no or a rejection bother him. And it's funny because after he got married, this other girl was kind of like, should I have gone on a date with him? It was very interesting. But it's fascinating how sometimes we get in our own way. Get out of your way. Stop thinking about rejection. So this is me, Anthony White, the Orange Tie Guy. Just wanted to give you that less than 20-minute, insight to my perspective and some thoughts. But I hope you enjoyed episode 5 of Friday Night with Anthony White. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.